Let's talk about the anti-coal protests that claim they're going to be ramping up, and I know that in part we are sort of doing their bidding by showing their footage, so we're not going to show the overlay of the protests of the past couple of days. Instead, we'll show you what the Deputy Prime Minister told us on this show last night.
Yeah, I get it when people say I don't like a big hole in the ground. I can understand that, but I'll tell you what, you like the money it brings in. Each one of those trains that those protesters are stopping, about $1 million, $100,000 in royalties. I think they've stopped $60 million worth of those trains so far, so that's $6 million.
Now, Pauline, these people are apparently might be facing 25 years jail, but you and I know they're not even going to get a $2,500 fine.
Yeah, it always happens all the time, doesn't it? Because our judges, they seem to be very lenient on these people that are out there protesting. You know, they might have the same views as what they do and say, oh, no, let them go. They're really, you know, not doing that much damage or harm, which they are. I think they should have the book thrown at them, and until we rein in the judges and make sure that they get decent fines and sentences, nothing will actually change. They'll keep doing it because they keep getting away with it in their court system. But Paul, it's got to stop. You can't allow these radicals, and they are radicals, they are absolute ratbags. You don't do your protest that way. You do it at the ballot box. Like, that is the way to do. You try and get to your own people in Parliament, then change it that way from Parliament. But you don't disrupt people's lives and businesses and destroy property, as they have done, what they've been protesting up the Adani mine, and they will continually to do it, and gluing themselves to the streets and all this rubbish that they actually do. And yet you talking about what these idiots do and what we've seen them do, and you talk about a gallows that's taken outside the Victorian Parliament. You have criticised those people. I think there's been a lot worse to other protesters.
Yeah, good point.
I think to make the obvious point, they're doing incredible harm to their own cause. And I'd like to see everyone says, well, if you're anti-coal, you're no better than these extremists who park their car on train tracks or hang over electrified commuter rails. But it's the exact same thing. The thing is, there was already scrutiny and criticism of Daniel Andrews' legislation, and as you rightly said, suddenly that then became a talk about the nutbag antics of these protesters. There's the reason why there's no coal-fired power stations being built in Australia is because no one's proposed one. There's no business that actually wants. No one's knocking back the DA. They're not coming in. No, there's no plan on the table because businesses just don't want to touch it. Already, that's why there's a unity ticket between the BCA and the Labor Party, because there's an increasing consensus among the mainstream about this. And all these idiotic protesters are doing are making it seem more and more and more like a fringe issue, and of course also disrupting people's lives, pissing people off, and costing the economy millions and millions of dollars a day.
Well, also just having also no understanding, no sympathy whatsoever, James, for how people make their living. Now, I know sort of the assumption is that, 10,000 jobs over here can just be replaced by 10,000 jobs over there, as if they just could stand up in their, mid-40s and just go and do something else.
Hang on, I got to stop you there. Did you say these protesters and understanding people make a living?
Sorry.
Sorry. I mean, let's think about it.
The coal pays for Centrelink. Is that a better way?
The coal pays for Centrelink.
There's just truckloads of Centrelink going past.
Well, it's either Centrelink, but you know what else we found? Remember with those Brisbane protests and people gluing themselves to the road in Brisbane last year? A lot of these people were actually, living in very, very large waterfront mansions and things like that, paid for by mommy and daddy. These are not people who have any sort of connection to the real world, as you or I or pretty much anybody else out there who's watching tonight knows it. And in fact, they think that going out and earning a living is, just icky bourgeois stuff, that's just so terrible and grotty, Shouldn't we all be, on the collective farm and, living in yurts and harvesting parsnips and, doing whatever it is that we do and drinking kombucha? That's what they think life is about. And they think that everybody out there, who's earning a living is a square, man, like he's the old beatnik sort of terminology.
I love it. By the way, I'm getting a lot of messages about how amazing the poster is that's behind you. Is it a real liquor thing or is it a made-up liquor thing behind you?
No, it's a real rum poster. We've got a couple of posters. One behind me is bought that in France. It's a rum St. James poster. I think it's Dominican or Haitian. And then on the other side, there's a wonderful painting by an Australian artist of a ship coming into the port of Melbourne. So bit of the art of the bar.
I think I can see an Extinction Rebellion protester just glued to the front of that.
There's one, and also you will have just heard a plane going over the inner west. And how good is it having airplanes and plane noise coming out of COVID?